Procrastination has never been an issue for me. Slap a to-do list on my desk and I'll knock it out in 7 minutes flat. I've worked with a lot of clients who do have an issue with procrastination, though, and there are ways to find the second wind to get things moving. Today's episode has tips on how to stop procrastinating and why sometimes smart people use procrastination to their highest benefit, like taking the time to connect with their highest intuition. This podcast is all about helping you with your spiritual growth so you can overcome obstacles and manifest your destiny, to crystallize and materialize any dream, basically to have success on life's journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. So let's get started. Hi there and welcome. My name is Rami, like Do Re Mi. I'm a best-selling author and creator of the Get Unstuck Revolution. I help extraordinary women just like you dissolve the obstacles in your path so you can bring success to you. Now let's get started with today's video. Okay, let me jump off the screen here and switch to my laptop. Procrastination has never been an issue for me. Give me a good to-do list and I'll knock it out before you can say boo. However, I've worked with a lot of clients who do have an issue with procrastination, and I've come to understand that sometimes it's because of a fear, perhaps a fear of being rejected or a fear of screwing something up. You've heard me talk about it before that sabotage, a close cousin to procrastination, really helps a person when they hope to grab a little extra time to figure things out. And if procrastination isn't fear based, well, sometimes, yes, it's sheer laziness or just a need for motivation. And this need for motivation may be why we hear a lot about finding our why. Because with a little bit of passion and purpose, we can sometimes find what we need to get things moving toward success. If you'd like to see success in full abundance along life's journey, and if you're wanting to tap into a greater knowingness and align with the higher consciousness of your infinite self, instead of the lower ego thinking and negative thoughts that push success away, then this is for you. It's time to be unabashedly, unapologetically, happily untethered to ego thinking. It's time to align with the higher energies of our soul's path instead. This episode is for you if you wonder, does procrastination have any redeeming qualities? Is procrastination a form of resistance? And can procrastination be used for our highest benefit? Yes, these episodes are about how to find your hidden power when you want to transform challenges into successes. I like to call it the audacity of alchemy. Because when we're feeling stuck, it's never the situation that has us stuck. It's our energy about it that's become stuck in anxiety, overwhelm, doubts, worries, frustrations, indecision, and yes, procrastination. And often this comes about because of a spiritual injury that we've experienced, some kind of a hidden trauma. So it isn't the pain of our situation, it's the pain of not being connected into the natural energy of who we really are, of being connected to that magical part of us that's a creative vibrational being who can use positive energies to create what we want and bring it into physical manifestation. We can allow our manifestations to materialize and not get stuck in the negative vibrations that block them. These positive energies that we talk about so much are where we find the magic of alchemy, because our choice of frequency, our choice of those positive thoughts and emotions can change the course of our journey. So let's start today off with a quick definition of procrastination just to be sure we're on the same page. Procrastination is the action of delaying or postponing something. So it is an action, and it doesn't have to have a negative connotation, although some people do see it that way. It really has to do with the intention behind our action, or it may have to do with the intention behind the lack of action, as the case may be. So let me just make a quick side note here about intention. I know it's a popular topic these days. I used to use intention quite frequently in my younger years, but all too often found that it didn't help me much at all. And of course, it's no surprise why. For me, and maybe for you, intention can sometimes call in resistance. As someone said at one of my workshops, the idea is to have intention, attention, and no tension. In other words, no resistance. When I wanted to set an intention, it was me tapping into my best rock star self. And of course, I had all kinds of tension on it to try and make things go my way. And this is why you hear me talk about that Einstein quote so much, to match the frequency of our desired reality, and we cannot help but get that reality. For me, the strategy of matching a frequency works so much better than setting an intention because there's absolutely no tension at all when I'm matching a frequency. And in a weird way, this is how I've used procrastination for my highest benefit. It's not to be lazy or to conquer fears, it's to take the time to get clear so that I can match the frequency. Or, as I've mentioned in other episodes, the phrase, here's my preference, helps me keep resistance off whatever I'm wanting to create. Here's my preference is the softer side of intention. Okay. In just a minute here, we're going to go through the 5 most common reasons why people procrastinate. And we're also going to talk about how others sometimes misread our actions as procrastination because they're looking through their own filter. In reality, we may have such an utterly strong belief or intuition that the solution we're looking for is already moving toward us and we're aligning with it so that it can show up here in the physical. So others may think we're procrastinating when we're simply working with the laws of the universe. All right, so that was just a little side note, but let's get back to our topic, which is procrastination. Of course, if we set an intention or a preference, it can help overcome any procrastination, but the intention might have to have a lot of passion and purpose behind it. So let's dig in a little bit deeper on this topic. Why do we put things off? Well, there are probably 5 main reasons. One, we feel overwhelmed. We don't know where to start. We feel disorganized, or maybe we aren't sure the first step. It isn't that we don't want to do the task. What we're really avoiding is the negative emotion. Maybe we'll feel like we aren't good enough, like we're incompetent. Maybe we'll look like an idiot. So when these negative emotions move in, whether it's overwhelm at where to start or a feeling of incompetence, remember that all negative emotions are negative emotions. So a simple solution is to find the baby steps so we can turn things around. Let's say that we're in sales. On Monday, we know we have 100 people on our list to follow up with, and this feels overwhelming. As we feel overwhelmed, we start to feel disorganized, and then maybe uncertainty moves in, as well as other negative emotions. Look, I've been in sales my whole life, and what works best for me when I feel overwhelmed is to just take one step. I'll start with one phone call and then go take a break. And when I sit back down, I'll do 2 phone calls. Then I'll go take a break. And before you know it, my attitude has become just one call at a time and then another. And before I know it, the momentum has grabbed a hold of me and I've made my 100 follow up phone calls. Now, if it's a situation where the overwhelm is over one difficult phone call, not 100, but one difficult phone call, the approach might be different. Let's say, for example, that you've ghosted somebody, and in retrospect, you realize that this person is important to have in your life. But the overwhelm looks like, will they even talk to me? Will they scream at me? Will it end up being so much worse than if I just left it alone? This is where an outside party can help us think things through and break it down. We might consider all the best case scenarios, and we might consider all the worst case scenarios. Getting all this out on the table helps us come up with the one message that we really want to convey, just in case everything goes sideways. Now, if you don't have an outside party to help brainstorm, of course, this could be done in a journal. Let's be sure and remember to look at all the possible positive outcomes that may happen just by shifting that overwhelm into a bit of courage. We might be surprised at how well things can turn out when we show up totally vulnerable and wearing our passions on our sleeve. The entire world might shift to our favor. Okay, so the first reason we might procrastinate is because we feel overwhelmed. Now let's look at the second reason that we might put things off, and that is that we prefer the adrenaline rush. Some of us just work better against deadlines. We like the pressure. We like the intensity that comes with time running out. You know, I have a friend of mine who sells real estate, and he says the best part of his job is the negotiation. Everything is on the line. His clients are counting on him. There's usually only 24 hours or less to get a decision. All the paperwork has to be in order. And it's during these moments that he says he feels the most alive. Now, he isn't procrastinating on purpose or putting anything off. He just knows himself really well. He knows that he loves the intensity and the pressure of negotiation. And so these preferences bleed over into other aspects of his work and his life. So think about your own situations and ask how you work the best. Do you prefer lots of planning and preparation, or do you work better under a deadline? This is what we call active procrastination when we know that we prefer the adrenaline rush. And so, anyway, this is the second reason that we may procrastinate because we love that intensity. Okay, let's look at the third reason we might put things off. And this is the other end of the spectrum from the adrenaline rush, and that is that we don't feel the urgency. I mentioned earlier that I've been in sales my whole life, and with a potential client, if there's no sense of urgency, there's often no sale. And it's the same with our to do list. It's more difficult to prioritize things when they aren't urgent. And so we find things that are right here in front of our face to deal with instead. So in this situation, it might be a matter of finding the easiest thing to do first, or maybe going the other way and finding the most difficult thing to do first. If you're self employed, look at what will bring the revenue in first and do that. Everyone has their own motivation for getting started, and sometimes it simply takes a little experimentation between finding the right motivation or the right style of prioritizing. If all else fails, it also works to break it down into smaller bites and just take the first step, whether it feels urgent or not. Sometimes that's enough to get the momentum going. And lastly, if there's no sense of urgency, take a step back. Go back to your passions and purpose. Maybe that's your style. Sometimes we just need to find that fire in our belly. What would this thing mean in your life? What are your values and goals around it? What's the bigger perspective? All right. So that was number three. There's no sense of urgency. Now let's look at the fourth reason that we might put things off. Oh, it's the fear word. We're afraid of loss or we're afraid of losing. Maybe it's a fear of rejection or of looking stupid. Underneath it all, it might just get down to a fear of failure. But it's the fear word, some kind of fear. So think about that thing you know you need to do but aren't doing. For instance, if you want to get in shape, maybe you're still sneaking the Snickers bars. Or if you're stuck in a job you hate, maybe you haven't been building your skills to get ready to go after something you'll truly love. When we have some kind of fear, there's often a but somewhere in our language. For example, the self talk may be, I want to get in shape, but I don't have time to work out. I want to get a better job, but I want to make my sales calls, but I want to reach out to the person I've ghosted, but anytime you hear yourself say that word, but there might be some kind of fear lurking, like that fear of failure. So here's how to overcome it, even if you don't know exactly what the fear might be. Ready? Write down all the reasons you can't do that thing you know you need to do, but for whatever reason, you aren't doing it. Keep writing and writing and writing. Write 100 reasons, write down through 100 pages if you have to. Keep writing all your reasons. And this is where it gets fun. At some point in this process, your brain is going to get tired of all the reasons. All of a sudden, out of the blue, it's going to switch. It's going to jump up and down like an exuberant fifth grader and say, wow, I had no idea I had so many clever reasons. And it's kind of amazing when that happens. You'll find that you'll automatically start arguing back with yourself, and you'll start writing down all the reasons you can and all the reasons you want to do the thing you know you need to do. The key is to keep writing until that switch happens, until your brain makes that switch and it's no longer under the spell of your fears. Because eventually, even if you have a zillion of them, these reasons will begin to dissolve. And here's my tip of the day, because you know how passionate I am about ghosting and how it's emotional abuse. If you've ghosted someone and you feel terrible about it and would like to restore the relationship, remember that you may have a fear sitting here, a fear of loss, a fear of failure, a fear of what might happen. And this exercise also works in that situation. Write down all the reasons you can't possibly open up communication again, Keep writing and writing and writing 100 pages if you have to until your brain makes that shift and suddenly starts arguing with you on why you should reach out. Might just be the courage boost that you need. Just saying. Okay, then. That was number 4, some kind of fear. Let's look at the fifth and final reason we might put things off. We just don't wanna. Simple, right? Maybe there's something we can't face because maybe that thing we have to do is flat out boring. Every year I have my accountant file extensions for both my personal and business taxes. And every year she reaches out to me in the ninth hour asking if I have my docs ready for her. Every year, just like clockwork, I roll my eyes and think, oh, geez, Louise, it's that time again. I'd rather poke a stick in my eye than do my taxes. I just don't wanna. And so I'm going to break this down into the simplest language I can find. And here we go. Just don't procrastinate and you'll be fine. So elegant in its simplicity. Just don't procrastinate and you'll be fine. I'm remembering a client who said he tended toward depression. And he asked me if I ever felt that way. And I told him, well, of course, in certain extreme situations. But the simplicity is, I just don't let myself get into apathy and I know I'll be fine. I don't let myself even go there. I don't let myself circle the drain with negative emotions, and I don't let myself circle the drain with procrastination either. Because if I do, something's going to bite me in the backside. So just don't go there, and you'll be fine. All right. For some of you, that will resonate to just don't go there and you'll be fine. And for others of you, you probably think I'm nuts. And if that's the case, then I'm hoping that you find the answer somewhere other than the simplicity of this last one. But I'm hoping that something else today did resonate for you. And so this brings me full circle because at the top of today's episode, I said there's a surprising reason why smart people do procrastinate. We use procrastination to our highest benefit. Now, if you'll remember, the definition of procrastination is the action of delaying or postponing something. So it is an action, and it doesn't have to have a negative connotation. It really has to do with the intention behind our action or the preference behind the action, which has a little less resistance, at least for me. As you'll remember, this is known as active procrastination, or I like to think of it as procrastination with a purpose. If we're going to delay or postpone something, it's because we're taking the time to connect with our highest intuition, with our highest and best thoughts, because this is where we often find the clarity, we find our answers, we find our solutions in these higher frequencies. All right, then. As we empower ourselves toward self expression and who we are at our core without the negative thoughts and emotions that can drain us, ours or anyone else's, we're choosing a higher frequency, higher and better thoughts, because our choice of frequency, our choice of more positive emotions, changes the course of our journey. So, reflecting back on everything we covered today, how can you apply what you've learned? Do you identify as a procrastinator? And did you hear anything today that shifted that perspective? And let's not forget that others sometimes misread our actions as procrastination because they're looking through their own filter. In reality, we may have such an utterly strong belief or intuition that the solution we're looking for is already moving toward us and we're aligning with it so that it can show up here in the physical. That's also an important perspective that some of us haven't thought about until very recently, that we're aligning with it so that it can show up in the physical. Well, I hope this helps you as you're using the powers of alchemy to transform challenges and obstacles into positive new successes. This podcast is all about helping you have success on your spiritual growth journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. If you still can't get your head around what's got you stuck, you can tell me about it. You can send me a question to questions at Unlock Your Hidden Power, or you may not know that you can schedule a one-on-one session with your own personal unstuckologist, that's me, by visiting instantbreakthroughsession.com. This private session is designed to help you tap into your greatest resource, that's you, and together we can make quite a team toward calling in the transformational powers of alchemy. In our time together, we'll uncover your single biggest stuck point, the one you may not be able to see. We'll also go over the most genius way to create clarity so you can just move forward while one obstacle after another is obliterated. And we'll create a strategy to get you moving in a really good direction, the one that's aligned with your life purpose. If this sounds like a match made in heaven, you can hop on over to instantbreakthroughsession.com right now and book the time slot that works best for you. Well, thanks for joining me today, and I'm wishing you a life filled with all the alchemy you need to bring success to you. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know who's feeling stuck, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.